Good morning, and it's going to be Queen Jack off. This is a 10 NL game, so different table than what we've been reviewing for the last few days. Under the gun, it's not a hand that I'm going to play. Cutoff open raises 2.3, both blinds call. Cutoff's playing 24-17. We've got 90 hands on him. We've got just a little bit of notes on him. He's played turn draw aggressively. He has 3-bet with pocket tens, and then when the king came out, he checked that board and then called 25% bets on the turn in the river just with that second pair hand. So, I'm trying to think about what kind of hands is he playing. This is 21%. This could be good, might not be enough. I don't really know what his total steal is. His attempt to steal is 29%, but it's 2 out of 7. So we don't, again, when we have 1,000 hands, 2,000 hands, percentages are going to be much more reliable. But I think this is pretty good. Suited aces, pocket pair, suited broadways, most of the offsuit hands. We may be able to add like the offsuit king 10, queen 10. May be able to add these suited one gappers as well. And that's almost 24%. I think that's going to probably work for us right now. So then, what about the blinds? Got 96 hands on him. He's playing 16-9. He's going to be tighter. And I put together like almost a 10% range for him. I do think he's going to 3-bet. He does have a 3-bet stat, 2 out of 41. His 3-bet range is king queen off. I don't know when he really had that hand, but we can look at his 3-bet. He's 3-bet from the cutoff and then from the big blind. So one of those times he had king queen off. So we do know he could 3-bet. His small blind stat 17%. Really hasn't played much in the button or the cutoff. Hasn't called. His small blind he's called 2 times out of 9, which elevates the percentage up to 22, and that makes it higher. However, I just kind of think he was getting some decent hands in the small blind with our small sample set. So I'm going to go with this pocket pair. I'm going to go with suited aces, these suited broadways, and I would assume that maybe he would possibly call with maybe jack 10 and 10-9 suited. I also throw in ace queen offsuit. I would assume he's going to 3-bet with queens plus ace king. Likewise, big blind, I assume he's going to 3-bet queens plus ace king. I did make a wider range for this guy. We're at 24%, higher than the 18%, but that's because we already have a call. He acts last, and his VPIP is only 11% in the big blind. So this is kind of unusually large for a player like this. But again, he's the last act. He's going to close the action. There's already a caller there. I think not only is he going to call with all of the suited aces, but probably all of the suited kings as well. All the rest of the pocket pairs, probably Broadway hands, and then suited connectors, suited one gappers. So we go to the flop 3-way. Flop comes out 7-3-3, 7-3-3 rainbow. Another kind of dry board. Kind of what we looked at, and I don't know. I think we were talking about sizing on a board like this. I think it was 8-4-4. Definitely, GTO likes a smaller range, keeps more hands in a caller's range at that point. So I think you get a little bit higher EV by making the smaller bet compared to making the larger bet. So not surprised that it goes check check, and then villain 7 checks, and that is unusual. So I would have thought in this spot you're doing at least top pair plus. You're probably throwing in these smaller pocket pairs. Whether they're for value, for bluffs, that's tough to say. There's not going to be a huge number of draws out there, gut shots basically. But we know villain doesn't really have many of those gut shots, so we're looking at betting these 2-card backdoor flush draws. Betting cards that have that backdoor potential. Some of these are going to be stronger than others, so like a 9-8, 8-10. those. Not only do you have backdoor flush potential, but you have like backdoor straight potential. I think some of the overcards you're probably going to be adding, maybe like the ace king, ace queen, possibly king queen, just those overcards. So I would think he would be betting something like that. He didn't, so I'm gonna say we're looking at range that looks something like that. So I'm gonna X out the gut shot. Yeah, I guess we could look at the c-bet stats. He really hasn't c-bet much, so I think maybe with the c-bet, we're gonna so this is something that I would probably do. Let's put these. I do want to X out. We're gonna X out like ace king and ace queen because I kind of expect a lot of players c-bet those if they have them. So we're gonna definitely get those out. And then we're going to do everything. We're going to leave the pocket pair less than the top card. Again, a lot of people will panic because they don't have the top pair. So I think that's going to be good. That means he's going to be c-betting about 30% in this spot, which is kind of in line with his regular c-bet stats. So I think we are good to the turn. Queen of clubs. Now, that's going to be a good one that one of these players could easily bet out, lead out, kind of represent that queen. If you represent the queen, this guy's going to be thinking, okay, does he really have the queen? If he had the queen, why not just check? And maybe I would bet. But on the other side of the coin, it's, he could say that, well, he's worried. He's trying to get some money in it now, and that explains why he would be betting it. So he checks, he bets. So villain, here, this guy checks. I think full house is going to be okay. I don't think three of a kind. I think three of a kind would probably go ahead and bet at this point. Ace three to try to get some value. And that probably means that the only thing we take out of his range is going to be the ace three. This guy bets, so I think at this point he's probably going to be betting full house in quads. The other guy, I mean, we're going to say full house in quads. We're going to scale it and say 50% of the time we'll have the quads in full house. And the reason why I left 100% of those in this guy's range is because he still had two players left to act. This guy doesn't. He's got one. So if he's going to try to get some value, he needs to get that money in there now. So we'll do 50% chance that he would actually just check with those hands. I don't think he's checking with three of a kind. I don't think he's checking with top pair. I think he's probably checking with pocket pair less than the top card here. The flush draw is questionable, whether he would bet that or not. So we could say 50% chance that he would bet those and the rest he would not. So I think a lot of players in this case probably aren't betting the draws. They're just going to be betting those, top pair plus hands. All right, so first guy folds. He folds. And then we get a call here. So I think full house, if he's slow playing it, is probably just going to call here. And we could estimate it. We could scale it. We'll leave 100% here. But I think top pair, I think pocket pair less than the top card. I think the flush draw is calling. I don't think the weak pair, when we see like fold to c-bet stats, I don't think weak pair is probably coming along, or the pocket pair less than that second card is probably coming along. Maybe the middle card calls, and maybe these cards call. I think that's probably about it. So that's going to be our calling range here. So now we go to a river of 7. So that actually fits that guy's hand quite well. Villain 2 checks. I think he's going to check everything that he currently has, and then villain 3 checks behind. So when he checks, like I kind of expect the full house to be betting. I expect quads to be betting here. Maybe not the 3. I think ace 3 is probably betting a little bit for a little bit of value. I don't think all of the flushes are betting. I don't think all of the flushes are betting, so he checked it. I think like the ace high flushes might be betting. And again, just kind of like a small, smaller bet. Yeah, top pair. So really just kind of a weaker flush top pair type hand. Again, the board just kind of got scary. If you have a 7 or a 3, you've got a full house, you beat that flush. So we're here at the showdown. Villain, first one shows pocket 9s. We had that in there. We said that was probably a hand that he would call, and not be afraid. He would probably call the 7, so definitely that's in his range. Villain shows king queen, which is also in our range, the king queen off. So we've got both hands. Does it fit what we expected? Yeah. I think we had a harder time kind of putting villain 2 a little bit on a range, but and again it kind of comes down to the river. This is what I'm thinking about. Did king queen lose value by not betting? Yeah, I could see how 7 is going to be somewhat scary because now any 7 has a full house. But how many hands is that actually in his range? So out of his entire range, those full houses are 3.5%. If he bets, what hands are going to be calling? Well, you're going to get check raised by the strong full house. Without a doubt, you're going to get check raised by the quads. All right, so that's like 7% right there. The flush is probably going to call. Flush is probably going to call. Your top pair is probably going to call. Would you get any of the 8s, 9s, and 10s and jacks to call? Maybe. This is pot. Let's go back to the turn. So he bet half pot. If he goes back and bets about the same amount, say 4 big blinds, about 25, 33%, less than 33%. If he bets that size, then that could be a call by 8s, 9s, 10s, and jacks. In which case you are getting value. I mean, you're beating all of those, and we're gonna get this. Beat the queen jack. We tie for the king queen. Yeah, so it's about 50-50. So about 50% of the times that he calls, we're going to be winning. So that kind of maybe argues that it's probably a coin flip as to whether it's profitable to bet in this case with the king queen. So maybe his check is okay. I mean, you've got top pair. You're kind of thinking if you bet, what hands are going to call. Yeah, about half the hands that call we beat, half the hands we don't. So it's we're probably indifferent on our strategy. Now, if he was going to call with, let's say, 60% of hands that we beat, then it becomes a more of a bet, smaller bet. In this case, to try to win. So how do I think both of these players played? I mean, not bad. I think 9s could have easily have 3-bet this. I think he could have 3-bet pre-flop. Here he had a bet. He could easily 3-bet it. You'll get king queen out. This guy probably fold. He doesn't have like a fold to 3-bet stat yet. I should say probably fold. Probably call. He doesn't have a fold to 3-bet stat yet. He hasn't been faced with that. So you 3-bet, he calls. On this board, he leads out. And I think on the board, you're probably leading out. I don't know, maybe larger size, maybe half pot size. or so. I mean, the pot's going to be larger, so you don't have to go with like the 2/3 pot size bet. Um, you can go half pot. Because it's half pot's gonna be larger than what typical C bet is. I think that could work. Um, on the flop, I don't mind the check, planning to check call. Actually, don't mind the check call by pocket nines on the turn either, because this guy could have easily have been leading out, doing the same thing, had the same thoughts. Um, kind of think if he bets here with the pocket nines and he gets called, you're probably just going to um, check the river, and then if you check the river, you're probably going to fold to a bet. Uh, so leading on the turn, I don't think it really gives you a whole lot of information. You lead on the turn, you're going to get called by like same types of hands, nines, tens, jacks. You're going to get called by the queens. You're going to get called by the flush draws. You're going to probably get called by like the seven, like a7, king seven. That's in his range. And then on the river, the river just pairs the board. I don't think you've really accomplished a whole lot to narrow down, how strong villain is. So then on the river, it's like, well, do you bet again? Do you try to represent that flush? And he could easily have the flush. I just think small blinds probably has fewer flush draws than, well, his flush draws would basically be ace sevens, a7, the ace x suited. So looks like we got our hands. We'll just go ahead and take some notes on these players, take some notes on the hand itself, and then begin our Sunday. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, look tomorrow for another.